3 true Craigslist horror stories. Hey everyone. Before we get into tonight's stories, I just want to say, be careful what you click on. We've all used sites like Craigslist at some point, looking for apartments, selling old furniture, maybe finding a roommate. It seems harmless enough. But the thing about Craigslist is, you never really know who's on the other end of that message. You're inviting strangers into your life, sometimes into your home. And once that door opens, well, sometimes you can't close it again. Tonight I've got 3 stories for you. 3 people who thought they were just making a simple transaction. They had no idea what they were actually walking into. So turn off the lights, get comfortable, and whatever you do, think twice before you respond to that next listing. Let's begin. Story 1. The apartment viewing. This first story comes from a woman named Sarah. She was 24 at the time, fresh out of college and desperate to find her own place. She'd been crashing on her friend's couch for 2 months, and the pressure was building. Her friend never said anything, but Sarah could feel it. She was overstaying her welcome. So she started checking Craigslist daily, multiple times a day actually, refreshing the page, scanning for anything in her budget. Most listings were either too expensive or already taken. But one evening around 9 p.m. a new post popped up. 1-bedroom apartment downtown, $650 a month. Available immediately. Sarah's heart jumped. That was way below market rate for that area. She clicked on it. The photos looked decent. Hardwood floors, big windows, older building but charming. The kind of place she'd been dreaming about. There was barely any description, just an email address and a line that said, "Serious inquiries only. Must view in person tonight." Tonight. That was odd. But Sarah didn't want to lose this opportunity. She fired off an email immediately. Within 10 minutes, she got a response. "Can you come at 10:30 p.m.? I'm only available late. Address is 1447 Polk Street, Unit 3B. Sarah hesitated. 10:30 at night was late for an apartment viewing. But she told herself she was being paranoid. People had weird schedules. Maybe this person worked nights. Plus, it was downtown, plenty of people around. She'd be fine. She texted her friend, "Going to check out an apartment. Back in an hour." Then she grabbed her keys and left. The building was older than she expected. The photos must have been taken years ago, or maybe they were just generous angles. The brick exterior was crumbling in places, and one of the front windows was boarded up. But the neighborhood was decent enough. Streetlights, a few people walking dogs. Sarah felt okay. She pulled open the heavy front door and stepped into the lobby. It smelled like mildew and old carpet. The overhead light flickered, buzzing like a trapped insect. There was no doorman, no security, just a wall of dented mailboxes and a staircase leading up into darkness. Sarah checked her phone. 10:28 p.m., she started climbing. The stairs creaked under her weight, and somewhere above she could hear a TV playing too loud. 3rd floor, Unit 3B. She found the door at the end of the hall. The paint was peeling and the numbers were hanging crooked. She knocked. For a moment, nothing. Just silence. Then she heard footsteps and came slow, deliberate. The lock clicked. The door opened. The man standing there was not what she expected. Mid-50s, maybe older. Pale, thinning hair, sunken eyes. He was wearing a stained undershirt and jeans. He stared at her without smiling. "Sarah?" he asked. His voice was flat. "Yeah, hi. I'm here about the apartment." He stepped aside. "Come in." Sarah hesitated. Something felt wrong, but she'd come all this way. She stepped inside. The apartment was empty. Completely empty. No furniture, no curtains. Just bare walls and dusty floors. The windows were covered in grime and the overhead bulb cast a sickly yellow light. It didn't look like anyone had lived there in years, so, "Do you live here?" Sarah asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Used to," the man said. He closed the door behind her. The sound echoed. Sarah's pulse quickened. Are you the landlord? Something like that. He walked past her, deeper into the apartment. Sarah stayed near the door. Every instinct in her body was screaming at her to leave. But she didn't want to seem rude. Isn't that insane? She was scared, but she was still worried about being polite. So, the listing said $650 a month. That's really good. What's the catch? She tried to laugh. It came out shaky. The man stopped in the doorway to the bedroom. He turned to look at her. His expression was unreadable. No catch, he said. I just need someone who can stay quiet. Quiet? The walls are thin. The neighbors complain. I need someone who won't cause problems. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty quiet. The man stared at her. Then he gestured to the bedroom. You want to see the rest? Every part of her said no, but she found herself walking forward. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the pressure of needing a place. Maybe it was just autopilot. She stepped into the bedroom. It was darker in there. The window was covered with thick plastic taped over the glass. There was a single bare mattress on the floor, and on the wall. Sarah's stomach dropped. There were photos, dozens of them, taped directly to the wall. All of them were pictures of women, different women. Some looked like they were sleeping. Others looked scared. Sarah's breath caught. She took a step back. What is this? The man was standing in the doorway now, blocking her exit. Previous tenants, he said quietly. Sarah's heart was hammering. She couldn't breathe. She looked at the photos again, and that's when she saw it. In one of the pictures, the woman was sitting on the same mattress. In this room, I need to go, Sarah said. Her voice was barely a whisper. The man didn't move. I said I need to go. Louder this time. He stepped aside. Slowly. Sarah bolted. She ran past him, through the living room, and grabbed the door handle. It wouldn't turn. She yanked harder. It was locked. Deadbolt, let me out, she said, her voice breaking. The man walked toward her. Slowly. Too slowly. You haven't seen the bathroom yet. Sarah's hands were shaking. She twisted the deadbolt, finally got it open, and threw the door wide. She ran down the hallway, down the stairs. She didn't look back. She heard his voice behind her, calm and cold. Come back any time. Sarah didn't stop running until she reached her car. She locked the doors and called the police. They sent an officer to the building, but when they got there, the apartment was empty. The door to 3B was open. No furniture, no photos. No man. The landlord of the building claimed no one had rented that unit in over 3 years. Sarah never went back. And she never used Craigslist again. But sometimes late at night she gets emails. No subject line, no text, just attachments, photos. She never opens them. Story 2. The couch all right? Let's move on to the second story. This one comes from a guy named Mike. Mike was in his early 30s, just moved into a new apartment with his girlfriend Emma. They didn't have much furniture yet, just the basics. But they needed a couch. Something cheap and temporary until they could afford a nicer one. So Mike hopped on Craigslist. He found a listing almost immediately. Free couch. Good condition. Must pick up today. Free was perfect. The photos looked fine, a brown 3-seater couch. A little worn, but nothing terrible. The address was only 20 minutes away. Mike texted the seller, a guy named Derek, and they agreed on a time, 3 p.m. Mike borrowed his buddy's truck and drove over. The house was in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Older homes, big trees, chain-link fences. It looked normal enough. Mike pulled into the driveway. The house was a small 1-story ranch. The paint was peeling and the lawn was overgrown, but hey, free couch. Mike knocked on the door. A guy in his 40s answered. Scruffy beard, flannel shirt, tired eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "You, Mike?" he asked. "Yeah, here for the couch." Derek nodded. "It's in the garage. I'll help you load it." They walked around to the side of the house. The garage door was open. Inside it was dim and cluttered. Boxes stacked everywhere, old tools, a lawnmower covered in dust. And in the back corner, the couch. It looked fine. Maybe a little dirtier than the photos, but it was free. Mike wasn't going to complain. "You sure you don't want anything for it?" Mike asked. Derek shook his head. "Just want it gone." They each grabbed an end and carried it to the truck. It was heavier than Mike expected. As they lifted it into the bed, something fell out from underneath. A small silver necklace. It landed in the driveway with a soft clink. Mike picked it up. It was a locket, delicate, old-fashioned. He opened it. Inside was a photo of a young woman. She looked happy, pretty, maybe in her 20s. "Hey, that's yours?" Mike held it out. Derek stared at the locket. His face went pale. "Where'd you find that?" "It was under the couch." Derek didn't take it. He just stood there staring. "Do you know her?" Mike asked. Derek's jaw tightened. "That's my wife." "Oh, well, here, she's dead." Mike froze. I'm sorry, man. I didn't. Just take the couch and go." Derek turned and walked back into the garage. The door slammed shut behind him. Mike stood there holding the locket. He didn't know what to do. After a moment, he pocketed it and got in the truck. He'd mail it back later. Yeah, that felt right. When Mike got home, he and Emma set up the couch in the living room. It fit perfectly. Emma even commented on how comfortable it was. They ordered pizza, put on a movie, and forgot all about the weird interaction. But that night, things started to feel off. Around 2 a.m., Mike woke up. He didn't know why. The apartment was dark and quiet. Emma was asleep next to him. But something felt wrong, like someone was watching him. He got out of bed and walked into the living room. The couch was there sitting in the shadows. And for a split second, just a split second, Mike thought he saw someone sitting on it. A woman, pale skin, long hair, staring right at him. He blinked. Nothing, just the couch. He rubbed his eyes. He was tired. That was all. The next night it happened again. Mike woke up at the same time, 2 a.m., and this time he heard something. A sound coming from the living room, soft, rhythmic, crying. Mike's heart started pounding. He grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. He crept down the hallway and shined the light into the living room. Nothing, just the couch. But the crying didn't stop. It was coming from inside the couch. Mike walked closer. The sound grew louder. He knelt down and pressed his ear against the cushions. And that's when he felt it. A cold draft, coming from beneath the couch. He flipped the couch over. Underneath, carved into the wooden frame, were words. Scratched deep into the wood, frantic and uneven. "Help me. He won't let me go." Mike stumbled back. His hands were shaking. He grabbed his phone and called Derek. It rang. And rang. No answer. He tried again. Same thing. Emma woke up. "Mike, what's going on?" "We need to get rid of this couch now. They dragged it outside that night. Left it on the curb." Mike didn't care if someone took it. He just wanted it gone. But the next morning when he left for work, the couch was back in the garage. He and Emma hadn't touched it. They were both asleep. But there it was. Sitting in the same spot. Mike called the police. He told them everything. They checked the house. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. No one had been there. The officer suggested Mike was stressed. Maybe sleepwalking. Maybe he'd moved it himself and didn't remember. Mike knew that wasn't true. He tried to contact Derek again. But the number was disconnected. So Mike drove back to the house. He had to know what was going on. When he got there, the house was empty. Not just empty, abandoned. Windows boarded up. The grass was even more overgrown. A for sale sign in the yard. It looked like no one had lived there in months. Mike asked a neighbor, an older woman watering her plants. "Excuse me, do you know what happened to the guy who lived here?" "Derek?" The woman frowned. "Derek, honey, no one's lived there in over a year. Not since his wife died." "His wife?" "Yeah, tragic. She went missing. They found her body a few months later." Derek couldn't handle it. Just up and left, Mike's blood ran cold. "Did they ever find out what happened to her?" The woman lowered her voice. "Some people say he killed her, but they never proved it." Mike never saw Derek again. He threw the couch away, chopped it up and took it to the dump himself. He even burned the locket, but sometimes late at night he still hears it. Soft crying, coming from somewhere in the walls, and he knows. She's still there, waiting. Story 3, the roommate all right. Last story. And this one messed me up when I first heard it. Out of all the stories I've covered on this channel, this is the one that still keeps me up at night. Because it could happen to anyone. Any one of us who's ever needed a roommate. Who's ever trusted a stranger because we were desperate or broke or just naive. This comes from a college student named Jenna. She was 19, sophomore year, living off campus in a 2-bedroom apartment just outside the university district. Her previous roommate, her best friend from freshman year, had just transferred to a school closer to home. It was sudden, unexpected, and it left Jenna in a really bad spot financially. She couldn't afford the $800 rent on her own, not with her part-time job at the campus bookstore. Her parents were helping with tuition, but they'd made it clear housing was her responsibility. She had maybe 2 weeks before rent was due, and she was panicking. So she did what thousands of college students do every year. She posted an ad on Craigslist, looking for female roommate, 400 month plus utilities, quiet, clean, respectful, non-smoker preferred, available immediately. She even posted photos of the apartment. It was small but decent, hardwood floors, natural light, a kitchen that wasn't falling apart. She thought the ad was pretty straightforward. She got a few responses right away. Most of them were not great. One girl wanted to bring her boyfriend over sometimes, and which Jenna knew meant all the time. Another wanted to throw weekly parties. A third seemed normal until she asked if Jenna was cool with crystals and spiritual energy work because she needed to cleanse negative entities from the space. Regularly, Jenna was starting to lose hope. Then, 3 days after posting the ad, she got a message from someone named Laura Chen. The email was short, polite, and to the point. "Hi Jenna, I saw your listing and I'm very interested. I'm 22, working as a nurse at County General. I work night shifts, so I'm usually sleeping during the day. I'm quiet, clean, and I can pay first and last month's rent up front if needed. Let me know when I can come see the place. Thanks, Laura." Jenna read it twice. It seemed perfect, actually. A nurse, responsible, quiet. Night shifts meant they'd barely see each other, which honestly sounded ideal. Jenna quickly replied, and they scheduled a time for Laura to visit the next day. When Laura showed up, Jenna's first thought was that she looked tired. Exhausted, actually. Laura was a petite woman, maybe 5'3", with pale skin that seemed almost translucent under the hallway light. She had dark sunken circles under her eyes, the kind you get from years of bad sleep, not just a few late nights. Her hair was pulled back in a tight, severe bun, not a strand out of place. She wore a black turtleneck, dark jeans, and kept her hands in her pockets. "Hi," Laura said. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "I'm Laura. Jenna, come on in." Jenna showed her around. The living room, the kitchen, the bathroom. Then Laura's room, the smaller of the 2 bedrooms, but it had a nice window that faced the courtyard. Laura walked through each space slowly. methodically like she was inspecting it. She didn't say much, just nodded, looked in corners. Checked the locks on the windows. Do you live alone now? Laura asked suddenly. Yeah, my old roommate transferred schools. And the landlord, does he come by often? No, not really. Just for maintenance stuff if something breaks. Laura nodded again. She seemed satisfied. I'll take it, she said. I can move in this weekend if that works. Jenna felt a wave of relief. That's perfect. Yeah, that works. Laura reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. Here's first month, last month, and deposit, cash. Jenna blinked. It was all there. $1,200 in cash. Wow. Okay. Great. Do you need a receipt or? No. Laura handed her the envelope. I trust you. There was something about the way she said it. Flat. Emotionless. But Jenna brushed it off. Laura worked in healthcare. She was probably just burned out. Exhausted from long shifts. That made sense, right? Laura moved in that Saturday. She didn't have much. A few boxes, a duffel bag, a small lamp. No furniture. When Jenna asked if she needed help moving anything else, Laura just said, "This is everything." That should have been Jenna's first clue. Who moves into a new place with just 3 boxes? But again, Jenna didn't push it. Maybe Laura was minimalist. Maybe she'd lost stuff in a breakup. People had their reasons. At first, everything was fine. Better than fine, actually. Laura kept to herself. She worked nights, so Jenna barely saw her. When they did cross paths, usually when Jenna was leaving for class and Laura was coming home from her shift, Laura was polite but distant. She'd give a small smile, say a quick "hey," and disappear into her room. The door would close, lock. And that was it. Jenna didn't mind. She liked having her own space. And honestly, after her last roommate, who'd been a little too involved in Jenna's life, always asking questions, always wanting to hang out, this felt like a breath of fresh air. But after 2 weeks, Jenna started noticing things, small things, weird things. It started with food. Jenna would open the fridge in the morning and find that her yogurt container had been opened. Not finished, just opened, a spoonful missing. Or her box of crackers would be lighter than she remembered, like someone had taken a few and carefully resealed the box. At first, Jenna thought she was misremembering. Maybe she'd eaten it and forgotten. She was stressed with midterms coming up. It was possible. But then she noticed her shampoo bottle was running out way faster than usual, like half a bottle in a week when it normally lasted her a month. And her towels, her specific towels, the blue ones she kept on her hook, would be damp in the morning. Even though she always showered at night before bed, Jenna started to feel watched, like something in the apartment wasn't right. One night she decided to stay up. She told herself she was just studying, but really she wanted to see if Laura was actually going to work. Because Jenna had never seen her leave, not once. She'd hear Laura's door open and close, sure, but she'd never actually seen her walk out the front door. So Jenna camped out in the living room with her laptop, pretending to work on an essay. The TV was on low. The lights were dim. It was around 2:30 in the morning when she heard it, Laura's door. The soft click of the lock, the handle turning. Jenna kept her eyes on her laptop, but she was watching from her peripheral vision. Laura's door opened slowly, and then Laura stepped out into the hallway. She was wearing the same clothes she always wore. Black turtleneck, dark jeans. But her hair was down this time, hanging limply around her face. She walked into the kitchen, and then she just stopped. Right in front of the sink. In the dark, she stood there, completely still, hands at her sides, staring at the faucet. Jenna's heart started pounding. She didn't know what to do. Should she say something? Pretend she didn't see? This was so weird. So deeply, unsettlingly weird, Laura. Jenna called softly. Nothing. Laura didn't move. Laura, you okay? Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Laura turned her head. Slowly, mechanically, like her neck was on a hinge. Her eyes were open, but they were empty, glassy, like she wasn't really there. I'm fine, Laura said. Her voice was flat, monotone, no emotion whatsoever. Then she turned and walked back to her room. The door closed. The lock clicked. Jenna sat there frozen, staring at the dark kitchen. Her hands were shaking. That wasn't sleepwalking. That was something else. Over the next few days, Jenna started paying closer attention. And the more she watched, the more things didn't add up. Laura never seemed to eat. Jenna never saw food in her section of the fridge. No groceries. No takeout containers, nothing. And she didn't hear Laura cooking. Ever. Laura's door was always locked. Even when she wasn't home, or at least when Jenna assumed she wasn't home, the apartment would be silent and Jenna would knock, just to ask a quick question about utilities or the Wi-Fi password. No answer. She'd try the handle. Locked. And then there was the smell. It was faint, but it was there. Coming from under Laura's door. Sharp and chemical, like bleach mixed with something else. Something organic and wrong. One afternoon, when Jenna was sure Laura was at work, she worked up the nerve to knock on the door again. No answer, as expected. She tried the handle. Locked, as expected. But this time she heard something inside. A faint humming. Mechanical, like a computer fan or a small motor running. Jenna pressed her ear to the door. The humming continued, steady and low. Then it stopped. Suddenly. Just stopped. Silence. Jenna stepped back, her skin crawling. She didn't knock again. A few nights later, Jenna woke up to a sound. It was around 3 a.m. Of course it was. And at first she thought she was dreaming. But no, she was awake. And the sound was real, a soft scraping, like something heavy being dragged across the floor. It was coming from the hallway. Jenna's first instinct was to hide, to pull the covers over her head and pretend she didn't hear it. But she couldn't. She had to know. She grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight. Her hands were shaking. She crept to her bedroom door and opened it just a crack, peeking through the gap. Laura was in the hallway, on her hands and knees, dragging something behind her. It was wrapped in black plastic tied with rope. It was about the size of a large duffel bag, maybe bigger, and Laura was pulling it slowly, carefully toward her bedroom door. Her hair was hanging in her face. Her breath was labored. Jenna's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. But she couldn't move. She just stood there frozen, watching as Laura dragged the object into her room and closed the door. The lock clicked. Jenna didn't sleep that night. She sat in her bed with the lights on, door locked, a chair wedged under the handle, and she stayed like that until the sun came up. The next morning, Jenna tried to act normal. She made coffee, ate a cereal, waited for Laura to emerge from her room. When she finally did, around noon like always, Jenna tried to be casual. "Hey, Laura, I heard some noise last night. You moving stuff around?" Laura stopped. She turned to look at Jenna. Her face was blank. "No." "Are you sure? I heard something being dragged." "I said no." Laura's tone was sharp, cold, final. Jenna backed off immediately. "Okay, sorry, just thought I heard something." Laura stared at her for a moment longer. Then she turned and walked back into her room. The door closed. The lock clicked. Jenna stood there, heart pounding. That was it. She couldn't do this anymore. That night, Jenna made a decision. She waited until she heard Laura leave, or at least until she heard the apartment go silent and assumed Laura had gone to work. Then she did something she knew she shouldn't. She picked the lock on Laura's door. It wasn't hard. Just a cheap interior lock. Jenna used a bobby pin and a flathead screwdriver, and after a few seconds of fumbling, it clicked. The door swung open. The smell hit her first. Sharp, chemical, like bleach and ammonia and something else underneath it. Something rotten, decaying. Jenna covered her nose and stepped inside. The room was almost empty. A mattress on the floor with a single gray blanket. A small lamp in the corner. No decorations. No personal items. But on the far wall, photos. Dozens of them. Maybe 100. Taped up in neat, obsessive rows. Jenna stepped closer. Her stomach turned. The photos were of her sleeping in her bed, sitting on the couch, eating breakfast, brushing her teeth. Some were taken from across the street, through her bedroom window. Some were taken from inside her room. Close-ups, intimate, invasive. Jenna's hands started shaking. She backed toward the door, and that's when she saw it. In the corner, under a black tarp, was the shape of a person. Jenna's heart stopped. Every instinct told her to run, but she couldn't. She had to know. She walked over and pulled the tarp back. It was a mannequin, life-sized, but it was dressed in Jenna's clothes. Her denim jacket, her favorite jeans, her white Converse sneakers, even her jewelry, a silver bracelet she thought she'd lost weeks ago. And on the mannequin's face was a photo of Jenna, cut out perfectly. Taped over the blank, featureless plastic, Jenna stumbled back. She couldn't breathe. She turned and ran, grabbed her keys, her phone, her wallet. She didn't stop. She got in her car and called the police. When they arrived at the apartment, Laura was gone. Completely gone. The room was empty, no photos, no mannequin, nothing. But when they checked the closet, they found something else. A cardboard box, unmarked. Inside were dozens of IDs, driver's licenses, student IDs, all from different women, different names, different faces, but all around the same age, early 20s, all with dark hair like Jenna. The police ran them through the system. Half of the women were reported missing, some from months ago, some from years ago. Laura Chen was never found. The name was fake. The hospital had no record of her. The background check Jenna never thought to run came back empty. But 2 weeks later, Jenna got an email. The sender was blank. No subject line. Just a message, "I'll see you soon, roommate." Jenna moved across the country that month. Changed her phone number. Changed her email. Eventually, she even legally changed her name. But she still checks her locks every night. 3 times before bed. And sometimes when she's lying in the dark, she swears she can hear it. Soft breathing. Just outside her door, waiting. So there you have it. 3 stories. 3 people who thought they were just making a simple deal on Craigslist. They had no idea what they were walking into. The truth is, you never really know who you're talking to online. That apartment listing, that free couch, that roommate ad. Anyone could be behind it. And once you make that first contact, once you meet them in person, there's no taking it back. So next time you're browsing Craigslist or any site like it, just remember these stories. Be careful. Trust your instincts. And if something feels wrong, it probably is. Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.